All right, and why not just to warm us up and also get used to the idea that there's cameras on us. So, you know, I can't do my normal, I don't know, yelling at you, throwing things. None of that's going to happen today. Sorry, y'all. You're safe. Today you're safe. You're safe. Finally. But if you'd be so kind, I think for these guys, it'd be great if you wouldn't mind just saying where you're from, what you studied as undergrads.
Hi, my name I just started, there's a camera on me. My name is Lucia. I'm from Spain, and in my undergrad I did philosophy, politics, and economics. And then I went to law school, and now I'm here.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. I am from Columbus, Ohio, and I went to Columbia College Chicago for my undergrad, where I studied screenwriting.
I'm Reginald. I'm from Mexico, and for my undergrad I studied communications.
Gentleman in the back.
Hi, I'm Rashid. I'm from India. For my bachelor's, I did filmmaking.
Hi, I'm Joshua. I'm from Singapore, and I did literature and film for my undergrad.
All right, and I am Eric Conner.
Undergrad was?
Undergrad was English and Communications, double major, minor in theater. Spent way too much time doing plays, as all my friends could attest. But they also did too, so we were all in it together. And so, all right, so it seems like we got our 3 shows, down from 8 to 3. And as mentioned, I think one of y'all asked this last time, like, you could switch within the 3. So let's say in studying Invincible, suddenly you're really in the mood for some really violent cartoon action, which is a little trickier to do in Elsbeth, but not so tricky to do in Invincible. In case you ever wonder what it would look like for Superman to kill the entire Justice League, Invincible pilot. And that's just episode 1. It's a really good pilot. And a show that, you know, I think they've managed to like kind of keep that thing going, keep it interesting. Very much its own thing in terms of it's an hour-long animated show. That alone makes it really unique, plus how it doesn't pull its punches, right? It's sort of like The Boys, but not quite as filthy.
It's also a good adaptation, I think.
Yeah.
In the comic book,
Very good adaptation.
There are things in the comic book that I'm glad were improved in the TV show.
Yeah.
And there are also some things that I hope they would continue doing in season 3 coming up later this year.
Yeah, no, I think they, to their credit, because that's one of those really super high concepts, at some point you run that risk, right, of like when you have a high concept, but we've talked about this before, like if you don't have the low concept elements, i.e. character, at some point it's going to run out of steam. It's going to run out of moves. And that show, I think, keeps it going. So, yeah, definitely it's one I'll assign you guys to do breakdowns of specific of the 3 shows, 2 breakdowns per show, but I'll spread it out over like a week and a half, so you don't have to do it all by Saturday or by, I think our next class after that's Monday, so you'll have some time. And it really is, you know, it goes back to, let's say even if Invincible might not be your thing, but for the 2 gents who are going to be writing Invincible, and possibly 3 of you, being able to like really help them out and say, okay, does that sound like this show? Have they done this? You know, and that's something we all kind of need to be like the Marshall Dillons, trying to figure out, like, are you going too close to storylines they've already done? You know, and that's a tricky part. And it's on all of us to, hopefully, if we all are familiar with the shows, between all of us, we all remember. And also, too, as you guys saw, this is what I share with you guys for each of the shows, which is I try to find, like, kind of like a breakdown of the characters, but then also what they've already done, so that you don't inadvertently, you know, walk in someone else's footprints. It's an easy mistake to make. If you have a good idea, chances are they've had that good idea too. So then it's like, okay, making sure you're finding a little patch of real estate that's your own. So let's talk about Miss Elsbeth. How many of you guys have watched at least 1 episode of the show? All right, cool. So for 2 of you, you're in for a treat. I think I'll do maybe about half the pilot, and then I'll jump over to an episode from like season 2. Elsbeth was a character in The Good Wife, and then The Good Fight. Good Wife, I know you all know because it was on your midterm from last semester. Yes. So I know you know the show. Her character, she was a guest star, a recurring guest star, and she would come in, always so quirky. And quirky can sometimes be a little bit of a limiting term. Like quirky can be like, I don't know, what's the downside of the term quirky? Think of quirky people you know even. No, you said it so dramatically.
Annoying. Well, I mean,
Are they from,
If they're
are they from Michigan? It's
possible. No, because like I think the term quirky turned into something that's like quirky. It's like kind of annoying now.
It can, right, no,
It you know, the borderline of
yeah.
Yeah.
it's too much.
You
Does
can get gimmicky, I think.
Yeah.
That's a really good way to put it too, right? Like, it can almost be dismissive. It's, oh, so-and-so, no, they're quirky. Like, you hear that term, it's not necessarily, like, filled with love. When you talk about a relative as quirky,
Oh, unique.
unique, nice personality, right? I mean, nice is that word, you know, I'm not a fan of. I like being nice, but the term nice is, I don't know, when you write, oh, this character's nice, nice can be dull. So then you got to get a little more specific. A martyr, okay, well that's a little more specific. But quirky could be kooky, could be just a little bit flighty. Gimmicky is a very good way of putting it. Elsbeth definitely runs that risk, and I think to the credit of the writing, the directing, and really the actor, they found a way for her not just to be a bucket of quirks, but like a real character. And I'm not just saying this because she completely reminds me of my aunt, who was a Notre Dame fan, so she's going through some things. Yeah.
I have a question.
Please.
Maybe this is just my reading of it, but when I'm watching it, I get the impression that it's an act. Like she pretends to be this kooky, quirky person
I
to
would
get
lo-
what she wants.
I love that read. It'd be amazing if season 3 all of a sudden she like completely changes. It's all.
Like,
I think it is her to her soul though. I do. I mean, because she had this good wife, good fight, to thine own self be true, as Mr. Shakespeare said. Yeah.
My idea of it is more that she's aware of it, of the sort of
Yeah.
impression she gives off to
Yeah,
other
and she
people.
plays
So she plays certain things up when she needs to, but at her base she still is this kind of flighty, sort of, you know, energetic person, I think. She just knows that she has that sort of golden retriever energy on the same level.
Did you call it golden retriever?
No, Miss Marple energy.
What?
Miss Marple, like the
Miss Marple.
animation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She's with the idea of being always on, right? That's exhausting when you're around people like that in your real world, by the way. Someone who's always on. You get that a lot in LA. I won't lie to you. But I think, you know, I think she uses it to her advantage. I think that might be a way
yeah.
to sort of, because, right, it's like, it should be that way all the time.
Because
One-
sometimes it's too much. Like,
Sure.
if they're going for actually truthful, I feel like sometimes, especially like, I don't know, in the pilot when she's constantly telling, well, why don't we go ice skating? And why don't we go to the Statue of Liberty? And I'm like, oh my God, woman, like, we're solving a murder. Like, why are you so intent?
But you ever gone ice skating in New York? No,
Yeah,
it's lovely
like,
there.
that's
Yeah.
what I was thinking here. And it's like, I know that I
You just skate around the body.
I would love it if she maybe
Right, like the figure eights, yeah.
like an incredible episode of Elsbeth.
A chalk outline but with ice.
But I think we got our first
Needs
pitch.
in a body bag,
Yeah.
like.
Because the body's on ice.
Yeah.
Great episode title.
There we go, on ice.
And she's just like, ta-da!
On thin ice.
Elsbeth.
On thin ice. Oh,
Thin
see,
ice.
we just came up with an episode, boom,
Doing it.
just like that.
Doing it.
Anyways.
But I think they also pilot, and this is the issue sometimes. It's why I have y'all like in the other class like look at non-pilot episodes, because the pilots sometimes you're hitting a lot of what I think pilots sometimes fall into. It's like kind of paint with a little bit of a broader brush. So it's kind of like, oh, she's really quirky. She's got like 7 bags. She wants to experience all of New York all at once. They tone her down over the seasons, but she's still the golden retriever energy. I think is a perfect dog metaphor for her, right? Because
The
the golden
pilot
retrievers
is a
are always
trailer, I
sweet.
think, as well, for everything else that happens in the show. So you want to
Yeah.
fit in as much of her there first.
Yeah.
Which is why maybe she comes off as a bit much in the first episode, and in the other episode she
Yeah.
calms down a bit.
You know, and I think what helps is, you know, she has her Watson. You know, it's like Sherlock Holmes without Watson would be pretty insufferable. You know, as beautiful as Benedict Cumberbatch is, I know. Is he?
Sorry.
That's the next class. Benedict Cumberbatch, hot or not, that's the next
Benedict
class.
We
Cumberbatch.
can talk about that on Saturday.
No, but But I think by teaming her with her partner, oh my God, I just blanked on her name. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Or
Is it not this one?
Kaya.
Kaya, thank you.
Celentano?
Let's say, I got it. This reason I printed it out.
The same lady that's always with her.
No,
Yeah.
Kaya.
By doing that, I think then you get a little bit of salt with the sugar, and so I think it makes it a little bit more balanced. And that's the issue we've talked about in other shows, like when you have a side character, which is, by the way, what she was. As spin-offs go, she was a smaller recurring character, a fabulous one, Emmy-winning performance, but in the end of it all, she was not a lead. She wasn't a lead in either show, but always a welcome addition whenever she was on an episode. And by the way, for those who are looking to do this show, Paramount Plus actually has chosen episodes from Good Wife and Good Fight, so you can see a little bit of her background.
That basically is Elsbeth in
cool.
it.
Yeah,
before
exactly.
she was up here.
Right. So that's another way you can learn a little bit more about the character. But, the example we talked about, like Dwight Schrute in The Office, like great side character. When they try to build a show around him, you realize Dwight's better over there than front and center. With all due peace and love to the actor, it's just Dwight is that character that should be a little bit more to the side. Needs other people, to sort of...
He works as a foil more
A
than he
foil,
works as
that's a
lead.
great way to put it. Better way to put it. Foil. He's a foil.
In my mind, he's a Kronk. You know how Kronk in the Virgin Group was the very side character, and then
Yeah.
they made movies about him and they were bad.
See,
Yeah.
I like the Emperor's side.
It's why the Minion movies leave me cold.
No.
Minions should be minions, not majors. They should be small. They should be side characters, and then you give them their own movies, multiple movies. It's just too much.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at, like I said, a bit of the pilot, but then we'll jump ahead to season 2. They changed a couple things between season 1 and 2. I'll talk to you all about, but pretty much, as you'll see, it
Season 2 hasn't finished yet, right? Yeah.
correct.
Or
Yeah,
season 6 in
they
the-
they're on a pretty long break. It's that mid-season hiatus, I guess they call it. So.
Action. Let me see.
You did the same as me.
Okay.
Alright, cool.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But we talk
Awesome.
about.
The S is skewed. How cute.
That is cute. I didn't know this. I've watched every episode of this. So a few things. First of all, hopefully the strobing stuff was okay with y'all. I could, if not, I could plug in, but then the audience, that's good. But, all right. So this does a pretty solid job. So it's the classic Columbo. Just one more thing, right? So Columbo, we would see the murder, see who did it. We'd get some of the picture, maybe not all of the motives behind the act, but at least we'd get the thing that usually most of these shows spend an entire episode getting to. What to do when we see front and center the murder? Because this, by the way, is their structural template. As mentioned, before, like pilots, you sort of set the tone. It's the overture, so to speak, of the symphony. So what we have here is, in essence, a good template of what this show will do repeatedly. So why do it that way? Why start with the end, so to speak?
We wanted to care more about Elsbeth than the murder anyway.
Yeah.
So giving the sort of solution there means we don't have to worry about who done it. Oh, we know who did it. Let's see how she finds who
Right.
did it.
And that's where this and Poker Face, very similar parts, right? Poker Face will start with a murder, and we see where we are. And then the one difference is the second act, usually of Poker Face, will then show how Charlie's connected, the Natasha Lyonne character, like where she is in this puzzle, so to speak. So she already is working there, knows them. So that's the one thing that show does a little differently here. Yeah, go ahead, Liz.
I think it also increases the intensity of audience while watching it. Like, if the main character is like not doing something right and they should do something right,
Right.
we as an audience like, no, you should do this. You need to catch this guy.
Don't go upstairs, right? It's us any number of Friday 13th or Scream
Don't
movies.
chase the false lead. Don't
Right.
believe his lies.
What are you doing, idiot? Yeah, and the joke of it too with this show, for those who've seen more than one episode, she sort of figures out the killer very quickly.
Yeah.
That's like a running joke
Her
in this.
intuition is
Yeah.
very strong. I mean, she catches Alex just by passing by him in the hall.
Right, passing by and then
Like,
turns and then away she goes.
Yeah.
Usually her first instinct is the right one. She then has to spend a good chunk of the story,
Convincing everyone else.
yeah, convincing, and also convincing herself to an extent. Because she, you get an inkling, but that doesn't mean I think they've done it. Although in some episodes by middle of Act 2, she's like, I know who did this. What, to their credit with the show, is early on they doubt her a lot. You also could see the relationship between her and the police chief, where basically, Captain, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take him down, Captain Wagner, played by Wendell Pierce, you might recognize from lots of things, including The Wire. So, Pierce initially is none too happy to have Elsbeth in the team. She's sent there basically to check to make sure that their unit is doing things correctly. So she's in essence checks and balances. She's not his boss, but no one wants to have someone looking over their shoulder all the time. And that's in essence what she does. What's interesting in season 2, they have a new character who's basically doing that with her.
IA, internal affairs.
He's a pretty fun character.
That's good.
And he's more no nonsense than any of them. And so yet he occasionally is charmed a little bit by Elsbeth. But it takes them all season for him and Elsbeth to sort of get simpatico. Mostly because she is actually, you found out in season 1, investigating him. Because they know there's some corruption in the department. Sorry, a touch of a spoiler, it's not him. I think you could tell though, he doesn't come off like the bad guy.
Smolin.
What's that?
Is it Smolin?
That's a spoiler. Let's find out.
You'll see. Yeah, you'll see. Well, watch the end of
If
season
it's
1.
not Wagner, then it's it.
But it is,
Read the description. Because this is
yeah, or the description, or spoiler alert, it's in the pages I already handed.
Pretty much.
So we get right away what this show is. And to their credit, now this is the thing, like it starts bleak. Our friends here are filming this, and also it's like, my God, what is he showing them? They put a bag on her head, dying. This is a typical class. When we get over to the comedies, I promise it'll be, not as much death.
Unless it's ghosts.
Unless it's ghosts, in which case it's all death, all the time, right?
They died before.
And they die funny,
and they die funny.
right? Thor getting struck by lightning, that's how he dies. That's a funny death. That's a funny
good.
death.
I love that.
He didn't die in battle, he just died dumb luck,
Yeah.
To be fair, dying against a battle of nature counts, so.
It does count. So here we have a pretty grisly opening. And it's a little bit closer, it's funny, tonally, more to like the CSI side of things. Law and Order, right? I mean, it's a cold-blooded murder. It's very well calculated. And then it immediately cuts to her goofing around on one of those tour buses, with her Statue of Liberty hat, and the guy's rapping not well, and
He's trying his best.
yeah, but he's phoning it in. But it's a real New York. It's like, do you really need me to do this? Oh, I'm fine. And how are they able to make those tones work together? That's the $5 question here. Or maybe 50-cent question. How do they make both work? Because that could be an odd marriage of tone.
Like comedy and serious drama.
Yeah, with like an actual murder, kind of the horror of watching someone die and almost
I
like
don't
real
know
time.
if it's that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just too jaded from other shows that are too violent. But even though it's violent, it's not. All the crimes are it's a bit funny. Like the way they're planned, it's almost like they Googled how do I pass murder as suicide, and then like he Googles the thing, and he's got the, I don't know, and the guy is like, it's not super horrible. He's not Laura Palmer wrapped in plastic.
No. Although there is plastic.
But
There is plastic, but no, I know what you mean. Well, and
you don't see her die either.
I think in other episodes, the murders are oftentimes a little bit less cold-blooded.
Yeah.
So like there's one that I'll show you guys, which involves I think I'll show you. The one involving Nathan Lane,
Yeah.
where he, his motive for killing someone is pretty ridiculous. And so even though, yes, it's a murder is not funny in the real world, but the idea of Nathan Lane murdering someone is kind of funny, you know, and why he murders them, as you'll see, is hysterical. Yeah.
I think part of it as well is since you're putting it so early in the episode, we haven't really got attached to any of the characters,
No.
including the victim, so it's
Right.
even you get enough context to see why someone wants the victim dead,
Right.
but you're not going to be so like, unlike something like Bones where, you know, you kill a character off that you actually feel really bad for, then obviously going to a comic immediately would just ruin the tone, but here it's like, here's what happened in the murder. Okay, back to Elsbeth.
Right.
It's like a side glance.
It's
back
chum, you know, it's like what you feed sharks, right? It's the kind of the red shirts of Star Trek.
Pretty much, yeah.
You know,
the
it's-
body of the week.
Yeah, right,
Nobody
right,
needs
the
to
body of the
attack.
week. Which, you know, listen, if you're an actor and you get that role, that's amazing, because that also means, like, you show up a lot in the episode.
I'd like to be body discoverer of the week, honestly. That'd be
Yeah.
funny.
Oh yeah, that's a good gig. So what we have here then is, okay, here's where we get a little bit into world build and story engine. So world build, we're in New York City. We're dealing with New York Police Department. So I can write that up here for the at-home audience. So modern New York. Now, each episode is going to have its own sort of like sub-world within the bigger world, or its planet within a galaxy. Because New York gives you a galaxy. And we'll talk about that when we get over to story engine, the idea of like, what elements of New York can you work into? So Poker Face, she's kind of free to go anywhere. New York City, it's New York. But the truth is, like, New York gives you a lot. It gives you basically everything you need, except a winning football team. That's one thing they haven't given us recently.
Even in
So-
the districts too, like Staten Island.
Yeah, right. You could go hang out with the What We Do in the Shadows guys, you know, over in Staten Island.
Or you can go to Manhattan and go with Percy Jackson.
Right, Percy Jackson. Right. So you have all of New York, and we'll break that down a little bit with Story Engine. What they've done, but also what could be done and covered. So it's like each episode is setting up its own little world within the world. So here it's like a school like Juilliard. It involves a director who works there, who's sleeping with his students. So in essence, like a piece of the puzzle, but also one thing they do tend to err on the side of, for those who've seen more than one episode, tends to be more about like upper middle and upper class than lower class. They have some episodes that might deal a little bit more blue collar, but it tends to be people with a little bit of affluence. Tends to be. Not saying that's a whole steadfast rule that you have to abide by, but just something to consider when you look at, if you're doing an Elsbeth episode, like where in the world of New York you're setting it. So modern New York, the NYPD, and because I am jumping around, but you'll see a lot of this is about departmental politics.
She's there specifically to keep an eye on them.
Exactly, right. So she is, in essence, a unwanted trespasser, according to the chief. Now, to their credit, as the show goes on, because at some point, it's kind of like, to have two characters who are just diametrically opposed could get old. If you all remember, we talked about like 30 Rock before. So Jack Donaghy, Alec Baldwin's character, for the first few episodes, was just constantly, not even a foil, he was just like a villain to Liz Lemon, played by Tina Fey. And the best decision they made was when Jack wasn't necessarily fighting against her, but he wanted to mold her into his own graven image. So instead of being an enemy, he became an unwanted mentor. And the great joke of that show is he was usually right. She was more up with people, more trying to help people out, kind of like believes in her staff, and then more times than not, whatever he would say was right. No, the problem is you're too nice to them, Liz. It's like, oh, but I am nice. And then by the end, she's like screaming at them in ways that he never would. But you can see he's like the emperor with Darth Vader, like, good, excellent, like Mr. Burns. So, and I think that's what they did here smartly. Over time, he began to realize she's really good at what she does. And so even though technically, it's funny, it's a classic reboot spinoff. the idea of like, well, it's same but different. She's not really a lawyer in this. Though there's a fabulous episode where she is a juror, which is a great one I would strongly recommend you all take a look at as well. It's season 2, and it features her husband, who played the bad guy in Lost, her real-life husband.
If anyone's played the Ace Attorney games, she's basically just Phoenix Wright on a budget.
She's just what? Say again?
Because in the Ace Attorney games, Phoenix Wright as a lawyer does a lot of the investigation as well. So she's basically just
Right.
She's doing more detective work than actual lawyer.
Right, and also I mean, technically, she hasn't passed the bar in New York, so there's that piece too. But they basically said, well, we want to use Elsbeth, but maybe she's not a lawyer now. What if Elsbeth was, in essence, a police officer? So they give her this sort of nebulous title, which frees them up to allow her to investigate. But you also see, especially in the first few episodes of season 1, she's kind of putting her bags where they don't belong, you know? And one of the great running jokes in this show is how she appears in scenes. So oftentimes, she like pops in, you know, it's like a Muppet.
It's Mr. Bean.
You know, Mr. Bean, that's a great comparison actually, Mr. Bean.
And also they use it a lot in the promotionals.
Yeah, she's always off angle, like that S, once
She's
again.
just popping into the scene
Yeah.
rather than actually like being in the scene when it starts.
Which is also how people that have her vibe show up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they just kind of like come in, and also with the way they'll film things is there's always an empty space, and you assume she'll be there, but sometimes they'll play with you and she doesn't show up there but shows up somewhere else. And it's a really fun running joke that somehow hasn't gotten old yet.
It took the Where's Waldo,
yeah.
except the Waldo just came along.
Right. You know, it's almost like when's Waldo? When's Waldo gonna pop in? She also, by the way, always carrying bags, and yet she also, you can see her superpower. What's Elsbeth's superpower?
She's really observant
Yeah.
and asks a lot of questions.
Yeah, inquisitive. Let me make sure I'm not messing up the chords here. So let's throw a few $5 words at her.
Observant, inquisitive, stubborn, I guess you want to say, since she keeps going after Alex even though.
Okay. Yeah, no, but I think stubborn is, I know stubborn has a negative connotation. The good kind of stubborn.
Determined, maybe.
That's a nicer word, right? Determined. You know, I think also
Perceptive.
optimistic.
Yeah.
She's very personable.
Yeah.
Like, she manages to speak to everyone she needs to speak to and everything.
Well, even like these people that she pretty much is sure has committed murder, she'll still like be really interested in what they're up to. And like look for suggestions, or if she sees a play, she'll like say, "Oh my God, that was really good," you know. And so she's always has that buoyant energy. And there's a couple episodes where she's a little more human and sad. In fact, one that I think I'll use for you guys is this Christmas episode they did, which I thought was very cute. But it's also about like she's divorced, she's new to New York, so first season, so much of it is about getting used to the Big Apple. And then also used to her new job, used to her new career. And I think there's also something to be said that they get into a little bit, but could be conceivably part of a story engine for a character, starting over in your 50s. You know, so that's a piece of it. And they don't necessarily put that in bold, but that's something to consider if you guys start thinking of your own episode ideas. You know, as maybe not an A story, but a B or a C story. You know, what else is going on? Because this one is not like Law and Order. Law and Order, as mentioned, the most procedural show ever, right? Just the facts, just the case, almost no home life. If you, the drinking game version, right? Like if drink every time they talk about something personal, you would be sober for 35 years. Which is probably good and healthy. But that show is built different, right? This one will get into home life. She even winds up becoming roommates with the other police officer. You know, so yeah, and they're very cute together. One thing I also really like about this, and I know my wife and I will watch it too, is how many scenes will be about 3 or 4 women in one scene. And so they have an attorney who's like one of the DAs who will sometimes help with the cases too. And she had a smaller role, and then they realized, like, no, she's really brings a whole other energy. So you have a lot of moments. This thing passes the Bechdel test with flying colors every episode. And I think also too right now, many of the great procedurals female-led. Elsbeth, Charlie and Poker Face, the one you like, High Potential, right? They're all like front and center. And also too, they're very human. Charlie is a really, really human character in Poker Face. She just has that one unique superpower, knowing when people are BSing. Except she says the full word, of course, because it's on Peacock and NBC. This, by the way, CBS.
Oh.
What do we know about CBS? What do you remember about CBS?
Family friendly to a certain extent.
Right.
Sort of like
As family friendly as putting someone's head in a bag and killing them can be.
Yeah.
family clean.
Yeah, right.
In that
Well,
year.
and this is what they would do on network TV is later shows, 10 p.m. Because if you're going to kill someone in the first minute, probably not an 8 p.m. show.
I was kind of surprised when they showed the blood in the beginning. I
Yeah.
was like, that's like a choice, but then it was a play,
Right.
so it was okay.
Right. And when CSI, of course, was on CBS, and that, I mean, they didn't pull punches from the sort of showing the bodies and showing the victims and all that bloody goodness, if you will. But it is still CBS. It's not going to be Game of Thrones.
Suicide is fun to talk about, an affair, ease around it.
Sex, not so much,
Yeah.
right? Off camera, dissolves, fades out, cuts the black, right? So CBS friendly, NYPD, departmental politics, modern New York, a bit of money, a little bit of affluence kicking in. It also gets a touch into politics because a lot of what's going on with the police captain deals with politicians coming after him. So there's a little piece of that too you could go with. Not as much as Good Wife, but that is also an avenue you could go down. For those who have seen more than one episode or even just the one, anything else world-wise you feel like we should add to the list?
I think there was a little bit of Elsbeth being like, I keep asking is anything unique to New York because she's from Chicago, so she's like a bit of a fish out of water, a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember the first few episodes. I know she continued asking like, what's cool to do in New York? What should I keep going? But then she toned it down in later episodes where she got more familiar with being here in New York. I think. So,
Yeah, definitely. That was more like season one is her being the new kid on the block. NKODB, as some of you know the band, of course. But that covers a fair amount because you realize New York has so much to it. You know, even when, like, where do I go to eat? Oh, I like the High Line, there's a noodle shop, and
which place should I go to?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like LA. LA's got all these little islands.
Promotional, do you think?
I mean, New York has a reason to allow shows like this.
Yeah, I think it's.
I feel like people know New York.
Yeah.
New York for promotion.
Well, and I think how many of y'all been to New York, by the way? I know you. Oh, two of you haven't. Oh my.
This is my first time in America.
So we're taking a trip to New York.
We're all going to New York.
So this side,
I'll bring New York pizza at some point during class.
Okay.
Is it a
Right.
I will
Although,
teach cats.
for those who saw the Joe Mantegna interview, notice I brought up Taste of Chicago and
Yes.
lamenting that we don't have a real Italian beef sandwich in Chicago now. And you could tell he was sad as well.
Yeah.
We missed it terribly. But they do have New York style pizza. You just got to search a little bit. So it weighs you down. Just be warned. New York pizza, not quite Chicago, which is like this.
Yeah, but deep dish is another thing entirely.
Oh yes.
Size of the slices, though.
That's why we always get hungry at the end of class,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So questions about world so far. Let's talk then also the tone. Just from what you've seen, but I think it's a really nice little tiny thumbnail of the show. What do you see so far as tone? What are some words you would use, and especially if you're trying to write an episode of this? What are you trying to capture? What's the note you're trying to hit?
Humorous.
Okay, you can put humorous there. It's
Kind of
definitely
charming, actually.
Charming, yeah.
Like charming.
I'd say more light with serious moments rather than serious with light moments.
That sounds good.
More
Yeah.
like sort of on that spectrum.
It does have some life or death moments, but chances are you're not gonna, see like her best friend get killed, like in episode 3. They're not gonna behead someone like Game of
I
Thrones,
think I
right?
would call it as a light-hearted crime show.
Lighthearted, yeah, a caper.
A caper.
Caper is a nice word, lighthearted, but I like that.
A caper?
And I think this is where it actually,
Eric,
yeah.
what's a caper?
Like a
Oh, caper is like a crime caper. A caper is like when basically any of those like a heist movie, those are like capers.
Basically, like
Has anything to do with capers?
Nothing to do with the fish, no.
you know, like
The
a superhero.
fish?
Or anchovy.
Somebody-
Yeah, no. A crime anchovy is what we'll call
I was
it.
like,
Crime
I
caper.
think the caper part came from like this superhero cape where they're off solving those
Ah.
crimes but are not quite
Like
murders, isn't it?
I'm gonna have to do my homework on that. You might be right on that. You might be
I
right.
can't remember
You might be wrong. I don't get cocky. You might be wrong.
No,
You might be right.
Yes.
But I also think with this too, because where it's a little bit different again than to Law and Order, is because we see the criminal at work. We spend a lot of time with the criminal of the week, as opposed to Law and Order, where yes, they have a significant part of the story, but it's front and center with the officers and the lawyers. This show, we, on the other hand, we do get to know them. That's why I'm saying the caper part of it, the crime caper, is like in essence, like we really see the criminals at work. And what's really fun in this show is most of them are not geniuses. So in some ways it also means you can solve it in 44 minutes.
Because this does seem like an criminal who is like not an amateur, but not also
Yeah.
a criminal.
Yeah, no, he's better than I would be.
Yeah.
But
He's a
he-
playwright.
Maybe not as good as you, I don't
He has a
know.
little case with everything and
Yeah.
like the little.
He has a good plan, but they're holes.
but he's a playwright, right? Like
He's also a director, so he also
Yeah.
thinks about
And he's
yeah.
British.
Yes.
Remember?
And he's a vampire, right? Wasn't that
Yeah.
from True Blood? So
Yes.
Oh.
yeah, so there's the vampire side of him. It doesn't come out in this show. Sorry, spoiler.
But basically, it's a solvable crime. It's
Yes.
just
Yeah.
not necessarily simple enough that the police would get it on the first try.
Yeah.
That's why we need Elsbeth to do it for that. Not do it for that, but speed up the process.
Yeah, they were
And-
ready to call it a suicide. 'Cause
Right.
It looks like a suicide, and then she was like, "Oh, but it's weird that she would whiten her teeth." And it's like,
Yeah, and I loved it when she would back out of the room
No, that was
afterwards.
so good.
That's like her mic drop moment. Yeah, so I think what you have with her is she is smart, but to their credit, she's not the only one who's smart. Because sometimes the shows could be drawn, again, using the broad brush versus a thinner brush, is like you could make it look like she's the only one who could figure it out. Thank God she's here. Or else nothing would be solved. This is not built quite
but
that
I
way.
think that,
Yeah.
like her optimism helps with that because she's
Sure.
like, "Oh, like when the police inevitably figure out that this is a murder."
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not properly covered up. I'm not the only one that saw it.
Well, the term catalyst is sometimes used wrong because we think of catalyst as like the cause of something, but catalyst in science actually is about speeding things up. So if you, drop like a pill into water, eventually it will dissolve it. You mix it, it's going to be faster.
Yeah.
And so the catalyst isn't necessarily causing it, it just speeds up the inevitable. So she gets there. And she's perceptive, but so are they. And I think like that's where the show is also well done. Now, she has a couple foils who are just, they've seen it all. And yeah, more times than not, things are what they've seen. Right? More times than not, the first suspect is the person who did it. In real life, they've seen that. But for her, well, maybe not. Yeah.
I think the thing with sorry, hold on. Like her being like perceptive, but with charm, I think helps because I feel like if she was the only one that was smart in the show, then she would be annoying.
Yeah.
Because she's
Yeah.
the charming one, but she knows everything. But that I think the realistic thing of they're in the police force and they know how to do their job. It's just it takes longer. I think
Right.
is what is the balance that is important. I think.
You
Yeah.
can solve it in a week, she solves it in a day. That's the...
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And also, right, solves it in 44 minutes, CBS with commercials, so it helps, right? And what I was saying before about Sherlock Holmes Watson, like having her someone to work off of is also great because it means dialogue-wise, it's not someone talking to a skull like Hamlet,
Right.
It's rather her bouncing off things. And also, too, because there's the things she knows, but then there's a lot of things she doesn't know still. Because she isn't as of this world as the officers are. So there's things for her that she is still playing a little bit of catch up. And also too, is new to New York, new to the big city. She lived in Chicago. Also, by the way, she's very rich, which is funny. It's like a running joke. It's like, oh yeah, no, I have money. Because she defended really high-end, bad dudes sometimes.
And
But
she
not
was
rich
saying
enough to
she
know what
didn't
they're
like it.
sharing.
What's that?
But she does say that she didn't like
Yeah.
it. Like, she's kind of happy that she skipped that role.
Well, and I think this is the chance to course correct.
I kind of don't see her as that. Like, I'm interested in seeing how they made her fit with that kind of profile.
Well, that's watching her in Good Wife. That's the fun of it. She's a shark, you know, but just like the nicest. She's a shark that looks like a dolphin. But dolphins, by the way, are awesome.
The dolphins are
Sharkish.
Dolphins will mess your ass up. Yes.
I have, okay, I don't know if this is unrelated, but, because I know we're doing specs, but with Elsbeth being a spin-off,
Mhm.
and she was in 2 different shows, how close is she to her character in those shows versus like creating a new character for her own show, if that makes sense?
You know what? I think they managed to keep the spirit of her alive.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't. Though she has a different job, personality-wise, she was always really quirky.
Okay.
And that was the fun of her as defending these, like, you know, really rich, sometimes bad people.
She's the funniest lawyer.
Yeah, she was kind of like the last person you'd expect. But I remember watching Good Wife, and every time she showed up, I'm like, oh my God, she's amazing. And then she got an Emmy for it, and I think they realized, like, after the good fight, like, maybe we could do something with her. And it's the same creator, it's the Kings, the married couple. And they, I think, custom fit this to her with the understanding, like, maybe we don't want to do another legal. So what if we bring her more into police, more into detective work, in the way of having an unlikely heroine in a detective story. I mean, Veronica Mars, we could even say, is similar to that, right? Because she's a high schooler initially in season 1 and 2. You know, so yeah, she's really smart and sassy, but in the end of it all, she's still a kid in those first 2 seasons. Even when she goes to college, I mean, you know, college freshman, I didn't know anything. Like, I couldn't solve nothing. I could barely solve my own life when I was a freshman. Almost figured it out now, all these years later, right? So I think, like, that's what's really kind of fun about the formula they've done here. We've seen these kind of shows. We've seen Poker Face. We've seen, of course, Columbo, which did this for years and years. But I think having Elsbeth front and center, and then also partnering her with another female, partnering her with, you know, a captain of the police who really is not a fan initially, but just like everyone else is, like, charmed by her. Kind of like what they did with Ted Lasso. Remember, Ted Lasso had a lot of detractors, but he's just so dang charming that it's hard to hate him. It's like hating a golden retriever. You know, it's kind of like, it's pretty much, it's prologue, but it's bigger than a prologue.
Yeah, so-
It takes up the majority of Act 1. You know, so she might pop in right at the tip end of it, but it depends also on the complexity of the case. This one's a little more complicated, but then I think the Nathan Lane one you'll see is much, that one is shorter. So it feels like they almost like split Act 1 into 2 halves.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because this felt like an Act 0.5, like
Yeah.
these
Well, you're right, this is 15 minutes in, so that's the length of kind of a long Act 1. I mean, Act 1 might be a little shorter than that, but as you know, like Act 1 and 2 is about half the episode.
Yeah.
But usually by the end of Act 1, she's in the picture, up and running. You know, and then oftentimes comes across the person she assumes did it, whether she says it or not, or even thinks it out loud, but has that moment of, you know. Yeah. And all those bags. I love the bags. So many. To do costumes or production design on this show must be a joy.
So fun.
Right.
Little
Wait.
mittens.
Her scarf.
But you said your brother works on the show, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
How cool.
And
You
the,
just broke the fourth wall. We went behind the camera. But I
in
mean,
the
to work,
assistant director department.
yeah. I mean,
Nice.
so cool.
just keeping track of all of that. It's like, wait a minute, hold on. You had 3 bags in the shot. Now you have 7. Wait.
Which bags was it?
Yeah, I know,
Several
right.
The
bags.
amount of sponsorship this show must have gotten to.
Oh yeah. Well, and
Did she have a Trader Joe's bag?
what's fun too is like no outfit's too ridiculous for her. You know, and I feel like there's nothing she puts on is like maybe it's a bit much. And one thing they did in season 2, and then we'll do a little bit of a break. Season 2 does have this one storyline involving, as mentioned, the actor who her husband in real life plays a corrupt judge. And so now they're in the middle of like a small multi-episode arc involving him. And it's a little bit of a chess match because she's curious about him and then he's trying to bring her down. and bringing out all the stories. A powerful judge too. So it's a worthy adversary. It's her Moriarty, if you all know Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's cool that they're married in real life. First time I think they've acted together in all these years. So yeah, 2 Emmy winners, man. Talk about a great mantle.
Yeah.
So questions so far. Again, we looked at the pilot, Act 1 of the pilot. I think it's a really nice microcosm of what makes the show tick. Yeah.
How deep do they go into Elsbeth's personal life with like? Because I mean, I don't know if it'll ever be this A story, but like, I know we know more about her, but like in the little that we saw, like we learned about her past through dialogue, but it wasn't like there wasn't like a setup for a B story. I don't
They,
think.
over time, will give us a little bit more.
Oh,
So
okay.
she has a son who I think lives like in DC. So he showed up in an episode. Divorced.
10 minutes or so, I think. Because I watched the first season, and every episode there's about 5 to 10 minutes that is just on her unrelated to the case. But it's usually like you only learn 1 or 2 new things about her. It's nothing that's so.
So it's
like,
usually like the C plot.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
she's
Yeah.
home as the C plot, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they don't give us too much, but also I think it gives you enough that you can play with it. One thing that does come up is the fact that she did work with some bad dudes back in the day, and that's come up as a plot line. So like some of her previous clients, like she might be in a little bit of trouble with the Illinois bar because of one of her clients who's going public with something. So they have a little bit of kind of her backstory poking its head out, sort of like
okay.
the groundhog, you know. But so there's definitely a little bit of room to play there, but it doesn't overpower the story.
Gotcha.
Very A-story centered, A-story forward, with the murder of the week.
And then
The crime of the week.
Investigating Captain, what's his name?
Yeah,
Wagner.
yeah. So that was in the first season. She was investigating the captain. We find out he's a good dude. Although Lauren, my wife, and I kept thinking it was his wife. Because they set her up and it was a good actor playing her. It's like, oh, it's probably her, right? Remember, you know the math. Whenever it's a high-end guest star,
It's a good red herring. When you see a guest character,
yeah, that's big. You're like,
come
oh,
in,
yeah.
yeah.
Why'd they sign up? Because they want to have that moment of, yes, it was me.
What was that one
Not the
episode
knife.
that you get shot down in CSI again? I can't remember.
Oh, Justin Bieber.
Yeah, that was an episode where he was the guest killer.
It was
Yes.
so funny.
It was an amazing one. You saw him on screen. It was like, he's definitely the killer. Or he has to be.
Oh, they do that sometimes.
They got shot at the end.
What they did to Paris Hilton in House of Wax.
Yes.
You know, they'll do that sometimes. It's a weird, dark fan service. Yeah.
When they
miss
like
when
when
they
they
did
kill
that.
Ariana Grande in Scream Queens.
Oh.
as well.
I thought she was a victim.
Oscar-nominated Ariana Grande. Please
Yes,
treat her with
She
respect.
is. You're right. But we need to talk about the Oscar nominee.
Great.
We'll do that off camera.
Not on camera, but
Off camera, or else I might piss off. So we'll do a break here. We'll take like 10 minutes if that works for you two. You okay?
I'm good.
Now your brother has to come talk to our class. There's a,
Yes.
you know, I
Sure,
mean
you'd
that's
love
such
that.
a cool show. But yeah, we'll take 10. So guys, let's talk some story engine. All right. So I gave you all. This is. I always joke. This is one of the only times Wikipedia can help a cause. Because they do a really nice job of organizing TV episodes. So here, if you see, I print out. I think I also put it in the Google Classroom for y'all. So you have the PDF in case paper is upsetting to you. So looking through just different ones they've done. Gloria Blecher, the loathed president of her co-op board, vetoes a lucrative offer from real estate broker Joanne Lennox, angering her fellow board members. As revenge, Joanne climbs to loosen Gloria's balcony and convinces Gloria's son, Louis, that he's being evicted. Arguing with Louis, Gloria falls from the balcony to her death.
Whoa.
So that's co-ops, condos, co-op boards. They're murderers apparently. Yeah, it's the HOA. Forget it. Many lives have been lost. No, but you also see it's very specific New York, right? It's a kind of like fighting because people, if any of y'all lived in New York, it's like trying to find a place, and you find a place, you want to stay there forever if you can. And so these co-op boards, they're no joke, obviously. It's a really fun episode, by the way. I recommend this one. I mean, a lot of these are really fun. Moving down, Skip Mason, producer of the reality show Lavish Ladies, electrocutes one of his stars in her bathtub when she attempts to blackmail him. So think Real Housewives of
Oh my god.
of Claymont.
Like
So
she's trying
where
to say it like a
your
blender,
mom's
so
right.
they keep
I
on trying to
love-
film, and she's like,
I love that Officer Kaya is a super fan. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's
Well,
so
and I
cool.
think that's also what you get, because remember we talked, characters are not in, little vacuum sealed things, like, so they complement each other, right? They fill in gaps. So yeah, she totally fangirls over that show.
That's so
She tries to look like she.
And by the way,
doesn't know
great
that.
title, Reality Shock. Love Knocked Off. Margot Clark, a celebrity matchmaker, coaches petty criminal Dennis Pagano to pose as Gabriel Irwood, perfect match for her demanding client, Lainey Belfort. They are married 6 months later, fulfilling Margot's contract, but after a year of marriage, Gabrielle visits Margot's home in the Hamptons, planning to tell Lainey the truth. And angry Margot clubs him to death with a statuette of Cupid.
Whoa.
Love hurts, dumping his body, and the murder weapon offshore. So right there, guys, you see a lot of real specific New York world, New York story engine. Hamptons, celebrity, like a matchmaker, that they sing of course, in Fiddler on the Roof. I will spare you all the song, that costs extra. But the truth is, like, that's a real unique New York story, especially once you get into the Hamptons. Once you're there, that's a certain, again, the money element of New York kicks in there. I'll jump ahead a little bit here. Something Blue. Wealth Management CEO Ashton Hayes, great name, reveals his unethical business practices to his employee future son-in-law, Derek. At his bachelor party, Derek blabs to Capri, an exotic dancer hired by Ashton to test his discretion. Betrayed, Ashton gets Derek drunk following the wedding and sinks him in the lake in a golf cart.
Oh.
My father-in-law and I we get along much better than that. But again, extreme wealth, CEO, so specific kind of part of the New York picture, if you will.
They're all rich, right?
Almost always. There's some that are not as rich, but they tend to lean more into that side of things. And I think that gets into tone as well. The idea of like pretty people with pretty rich problems.
What's the word for it? The idle rich. There you
The
go.
idle rich, very good.
If they have nothing better to do and to use them.
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
gonna
A
use them
little
for
murder.
Weird stuff.
Now this one is a little bit different, though the place is very nice. Cocktail bar owner Joe Dillon learns from Ivy Benson, his favorite customer, about her former college roommate and bully Gemma Nelson. A vengeful Joe strangles Gemma in her sleep, but the police discover it was actually Jane Dunhill, Gemma's house sitter, who was killed. So that one, it is a bartender, or a bar owner, but if you see the episode, it's a nice bar. It's not a dive bar. So again, the idea of, Elsbeth has money, so she definitely finds herself in circles of wealth and prestige, more than not. Retiring supermodel, fitting finale. Retiring supermodel Nadine Clay walks her final runway at her soon-to-be ex-husband's Nick Garrison's fashion show, where photographer Ezra Tate is shot dead. Nadine explains that Ezra, her former lover, was desperate for money, and a pawn shop owner reveals Ezra was involved with gambling debts, blackmail, and a mysterious Pangea project. So there you get in the world of high fashion, right? They have an episode that's a bit meta. The last episode of this that they, I think, did so far this season. If you look at jumping ahead to episode 18.
That was she's procedural.
Yeah, TV actress Regina Coburn is about to leave her longtime role in a police procedural so she could perform in a London production of Macbeth, with her character being placed in a coma to accommodate her absence. However, the showrunner Calvin Reed blindsides Regina by rewriting the scripts so it obligates her to stay in New York and miss the Macbeth production. Furious over this betrayal, Regina distracts the rest of the cast and kills the director.
Oh.
Ice cream truck.
Ice cream truck. That one, they definitely have fun with the form. They have a character that's very much like a kind of one of the police officers. They're like, "Oh my God, do the voice!" And he's like, "What? What am I doing?" Because he sounds just like one of those characters on the TV show. And One Angry Woman. That's one another one I strongly recommend. You also notice its IMDb score is a little higher. Delia Bates has a sexual rendezvous with her neighbor, Andy Myers, in his apartment. When Delia goes to use the shower after their tryst, Judge Milton Crawford enters Andy's apartment and bludgeons him to
Is
death.
this the one you mentioned that
Yeah.
was her husband is the
Yeah.
judge?
Yeah, and what's really fun here is that she then becomes a juror. So One Angry Woman is a pun on 12 Angry Men, exactly. That's a really, really interesting one. And very smart. And then again, it sets up an ongoing antagonist. So, and it's a reminder for y'all, but when you're doing your specs, as kind of cautioned, try to lean more into procedural than serialized. Even like shows like Severance, I know that gets real hard. But Severance still has their weird little things they're trying. You know, maybe it's like the weird melon parties, or the room that has like, there's like animals.
The
The goats.
The waffle party.
The goats.
Yeah, the goats.
What?
So there's
Yeah,
definitely
never
corners
heard of
of Lumen they haven't explored yet. And so like, you know, the Wednesday example was it was a season-long mystery. They gave that a lot of real estate. You don't need to add to it. It also limits you. Because when you're dealing with the serialized, it means you can't, upend the balance of the force. So you can't do too much with it. It kind of limits you. So when we think story engine, New York City. Now, again, part of this story engine, this is where it crosses over the world, was, of course, the politics of the department. That comes up somewhat regularly. Personal, i.e. her, and I'm sorry, it's Kayla, right? Her
The son? Yeah.
Kaya. So Kaya and E as unlikely besties. You know, but the personal, like her, you know, she occasionally, a couple different firemen had a thing for her. And it's a running joke because they're like really, really, really handsome dudes, and she's like, well, maybe. And like, she's like almost blind to the fact that these guys like her. And she's so focused on her stuff that it's hard for her. So her dating life, you could go there. They haven't gone there much, but I feel like you could have a potential B or a C story there. So Kay and E besties, they moved in together for a bit. Her getting used to New York was like subplot. So the subplots would be a little more personal, a little more frivolity compared to, of course, the murders. So she's not out murdering people on the side. Like she's living her life, reinventing herself, resetting herself.
Her family, her son.
Yeah.
I believe that was the one episode number 5. Yeah.
Yeah, in
Was
fact,
right
the
there.
Christmas one, her son keys into the plot a little bit. Not the A, but like the B or the C story. But then we get into story engine of New York crimes. Law and Order, of course, did this by grabbing newspapers and changing a few names so they didn't get sued. And lo and behold, you have 100 seasons of Law and Order. Because unfortunately, there's always another crime. Elsbeth, a little bit of a different beast. The crimes, including the one I'm going to show you, probably not one that would happen too much in the real world. But that's the fun of it, too. So when you think New York crimes, here, just in a quick read, we talked about like theater, we talked about TV shows being filmed in New York, high fashion. There's another episode that deals with high-end jewelry,
Tennis.
like tennis, sports.
Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah, the sports where he drugged the towel.
Yeah.
Yeah. What other ones come to mind? New York crimes, New York sort of high society.
I mean, I just saw a title for the 10th one is
Yeah.
Finance Bros. I feel like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like Wall Street.
Wall Street.
I'm
And Wall Street, by the way, there's so many moving parts to that. You don't necessarily need only, they already did a Wall Street episode.
A rivalry between, hot dog vendors, maybe, if you think of something like that.
Yes.
Like a Met Gala one, or like there's like a
That's it.
high-end event.
Yeah.
Television series, I suppose. It's
But-
or a late night talk show host.
Oh, there we go. Talk show or news.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like a Gossip Girl type of episode would be really fun.
Oh yeah. The fancy high-end schools, private schools. You also have, of course, in New York City, you have multiple colleges.
Right.
So what could happen? Like even the first episode, that's supposed to be like a Juilliard.
Sorority / fraternity rivalry or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know what this is.
There's a lot of fancy restaurants. in
Sure.
New York.
They have
like
one.
a poisoning or something.
Yeah, they did one where
Oh,
They had a restaurant one where it was the guy who was like not the maitre d', but I'm thinking in the bear, what they call him, but he basically was selling reservations on the side. And the head chef didn't like this, so she killed him. In fact, I
That
think
makes
it's the one from Better Things, that show. I think it was the actress from that. So
Yeah, he's from. Oh yeah.
and so like yeah, she like basically kills him pretty bad, and you begin to realize, oh yeah, kitchens have a lot of murder weapons in them.
Yeah.
Does New York have a
Yeah.
lot of suburbs actually?
What's that?
Does New York have a lot of suburbs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't really
Yeah,
tell
you could-
from not being there.
Not near the city.
But you could go out to like some parts of Queens, you go maybe Westchester, but again, part of this too is always asking yourself, would it be the local NYPD? Or would this be handled by one of their cops? But that could be part of the story too. Whose jurisdiction is it? There was that show called, I think it was called The Bridge, where they found a corpse that was on both sides of the US-Mexico border. And I think it was also cut in half, I believe, if I remember correctly. Yeah, well, you know, it's even Steven. So you had basically one part of the body in one country and one in the other, so then the cops had to work together. You know, so that right there could be part of a story engine. So suburbs, give me some more New York. What do you think of when you think of New York?
Oh, the people who stand on the street in Times Square.
Okay.
The mascot, like people.
Yeah, yeah. The Hollywood Bowl, their version of Hollywood Bowl.
Exactly.
They did a fabulous episode about that on Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt
Oh yes.
with the bargain Elmo or the bargain Miss Piggy.
That's
I
awesome.
guess the bridges as well, since New York has so
Ooh.
many
Broadway.
different like
Yep.
ways in and out of the actual city. I think. This is another definitely Percy Jackson.
Also, music.
Music, yeah.
Or maybe like New Year's Eve.
Oh, sure.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
New Year's Eve's in there.
Oh,
Like,
also
something
Thanksgiving
could
Day
happen.
Parade.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Great, yeah.
And guess what we just did? You begin to realize you just scratch a little bit, and you begin to see a lot of corners of New York. Some of which they've explored some, and some which they haven't yet. I don't think they've done a Macy Thanksgiving Day Parade episode
That
yet.
would be amazing.
Yeah,
So if one of you
death by large inflatable minion.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could.
Worst ways to
Or
go.
maybe there's a
Listen,
mascot that goes with there's someone dead inside.
If anyone who
That's
wants to do it, it would be
Thanksgiving.
that turkey. The turkey would do it.
The turkey.
The turkey would.
It's always the turkey.
Again, that's Thanksgiving.
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 No,
Yes.
That's my rough one.
one.
Was it Wait Me, Duck Me, All Be Stuffed? I remember that fake trailer from Grindhouse.
Yeah. And then they made a
Um,
whole new one. There's a sequel this year.
But I also think this is where you as writers also like your own connection, even if you haven't been to New York, and you get to New York at some point, please, trust me. Please, I know, but at some point, please. Well, there won't be a test, don't worry. I can't work that into the curriculum. But the part of this that's interesting to you, I mean, that's something to consider, just like looking at Invincible or Severance. Your own experience working in a cubicle, if you had one. You know, maybe not your superhero experience, but what is it about the superhero lore that's interesting to you? You know, so I think like for this, it's kind of like, I mean, the hot dog one is so fun because food trucks, we have those in LA, obviously. But the idea of there is, gosh, there was a story I came across about this one hot dog vendor who had this spot, it was like right near like Lincoln Center.
And then somebody else.
Yeah, and there was like it was like a battle. You know, and even like, I mean, Zanku Chicken, one of the great LA establishments, read about that, not now, but you'll see there's a whole story of betrayal and murder in this family that ran Zanku Chicken.
Wow.
And it was mentioned in a Beck song, as if that wasn't cool enough. So it is crazy what you find in the real world that can sort of give you something for this.
Can I add another one?
Please.
A basketball game or a concert?
Oh, sure, sports. But music, sports.
Once the Madison
Oh, the-
Square Garden.
And the street.
Radio City
Yeah.
Music Hall.
Oh, of course, the
my God,
Rockettes. Rockettes.
Yeah.
Right, and again, because this story it's not just set in New York. New York is like a character in this, right? New York is feeding it the very story engine. It's the fuel.
Got talent.
Yeah. So yeah, sports, and if you want, you
Fallon.
feature me as a very sad New York Giants fan. That's
Why
fine.
people go for
Maybe
the
that's it,
Giants?
someone in the football.
Listen, I got it from my dad, so blame
I
my
get it.
my messed up genetics.
From the New York Giants.
Yeah. He made me do it. I swear. I know better, but I don't.
Everyone can be perfect.
I have a problem.
I can't criticize because I'm 49 years old.
We say we all have our
Yeah, I
crops to
can't
bear.
either. I'm a Bengals
Me and
fan.
Prussia,
All right.
we know what we're talking
I
about.
didn't even follow any sports.
So let me take you now.
Yeah.
So as you can see here, by the way, yeah, you can see my screen. So here, if you wanted to do a real deep dive,
Oh, how cool.
yeah, Best of Elsbeth on Good Wife and Good Fight, including Bitcoin for Dummies. But let's take you over now to season 2. Give me a second here.
The Christmas episode? Or?
Yeah,
The 6.
yeah, this one's fun. And so that moment there, 12 minutes, pretty classic Act 1 length. What they do with this one, I also, in terms of thinking of spec, because that's a question that already came up like this last week. The idea of like, okay, spec, sort of have these like kind of rules of the game, so to speak, right? You're not going to have an Elsbeth episode where Elsbeth is murdered in the opening, because then it would be a very short show, and that would be it. But instead, it's like, okay, we're going to have a murder. Elsbeth's going to figure it out. In the end, she solves it, and we move on, right? And so you understanding like that's like, okay, well, that seems a little bit like a constraint. But what did they do within that that really spoke to the specificity of this episode so far?
They were both trying to kill each other.
Right. So right there, too, it's like they both hate each other. It's a turn because we thought she was going to die, and then he died.
We don't actually get confirmation it was her, but you know, it's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
suspicious.
Was it trending towards yes?
Because Elsbeth just takes a moment to like. it's
Yeah,
hers.
and that's the moment that is almost like a trademark for her. This is still Act 1, but she eyeballs someone. She does her wonderful crooked look, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, she's going to key in on this. And so we kind of we're off to the races, so to speak. And also to a specificity of this, like this doesn't have to be New York City, by the way. Of course, New York City is amazing looking at Christmas time. But this story could have been set in LA, it could have been set in other big cities potentially. So I think that's also something to consider is like, you might have a great idea, like, well, what if it was like a Christmas podcaster? That can kind of be anywhere. So don't be afraid of those ideas either, is what I'm stressing here. It's like you could find something that would make sense in New York. The New Yorkness of it is just the glitz, like the idea of getting paid a tremendous amount of money to like decorate someone's office who's supposed to be like like the editor of Vogue, you know, and Winter, right? The legend, the Devil Wears Prada inspiration, right? But yeah, I think like that turn there, and also we have a few, not necessarily suspects, but a few sort of red herrings and dead ends. Maybe it was me. I'm very killable. That's a potential road. Are they trying to kill him? Are they trying to kill her? Sorry, go ahead.
We know the target actually was what's his name, Dirk, but they don't know that. So of course they can throw out things like maybe the target was me.
Right, and it's dramatic irony. Remember, when we as an audience know more than the characters, and that's a really fun tool to play with as a writer. It's like when we know more, and then how do you work that? How do you sort of tantalize us? Was that?
Squeeze it for all it's worth.
Exactly, and without squeezing it too much,
Yeah.
without the sponge going dry, right? Like you want us to sort of stay involved, and that's always that tricky balance of like at what point, just like Elsbeth is kind of a little bit extra, as y'all might say, like how do you temper it so she doesn't go too loony. And I think they always find a way to sort of temper it. They always find a way to kind of keep her just a little bit on planet Earth.
Did you have her friends, I guess, at this point? Yeah, to always pull her back into the...
Right,
So-
and that's the 1-2 punch of Kea, and then Detective Donnelly, that's a character that they've definitely leaned on more as the show went on. And again, I think they realized the three of them together is actually pretty fun. So she's not as recurring, she's not as regular as Kea, but she definitely shows up in a lot, and it's one of those characters you could use her. I would suggest don't leave her completely out of your spec, but you don't have to lean too much into her. Or you could use her a decent amount. And you can see there too, Kaya's a little bit young. She is seemingly on a fast track to becoming a detective. Detective has seen it all. She talks about the death as if she's seen this more than once.
And on Monday.
Yeah, you know, right. It's like, electrocution, impalement on a reindeer. Yep.
The classic.
The classic, no shock.
Trick.
And even apparently the fashion designer has seen this before too.
And she's
Not
just
again.
amazing.
I want the prequel series now.
Very fun.
I'm just going to show a few more minutes of this, mostly because I want you to, you'll get some subplot action, but then also seeing Elsbeth doing her thing, using her superpower, putting pieces together.
The Santa Parade.
Yeah, SantaCon. That's the most believable thing in this.
There can only be one Santa.
They do.
Yeah, no, that's like a New York thing.
Santa.
They have like a thing, bunch of Santas. I think they do it in LA too. Yeah.
That sounds
What's the purpose?
What is
They're
this?
disguise what you do.
Purpose. Oh, you silly purpose. No. What's purpose? They get drinking. They get drinking and
And then they
A little bit of
But they don't
It's
need
a
to
whole
fight.
drinking sometimes leads to fighting.
They don't need to fight. They need to drink
They
and
need to
then.
No, it's not like a Fight Club. Although I think Santa
Well,
Fight
yes.
Club would be a fabulous film, but
It's a holly jolly brawl.
yes, that's a great way to put it. Holly Jolly Brawl.
All right.
A Santa fight story. So we begin to see here, and this is the work, is that idea like we talked before about, like you do almost like you start at the end of the maze, so you can figure out dead ends. So that's what they're doing here. It's like the end of the maze, like is in essence what we saw already. So then the dead ends, the things she's planting along the way, and they really get deep into the kind of like the rules of that world. So what can you tell me about Santa's Factory, their company, so to speak?
It seemed personable.
Right.
There was a lot of, I think, trust. I want to say trust, but like there was a lot of dependency between the two of them, their
Yeah.
DVD and their little helpers, and it's very
Not so little though. They're
Yes,
pretty
yes,
buff.
But I mean that's what they mean.
And I love it.
His
They
helpers.
clearly
They
are
actually
trying
do
to.
seem to respect their
Yeah.
DVD at the very least.
And I kind of like that they have some fun with like playing with our expectations. We meet his little helpers, and we start in our minds. Oh, I see. And you can see Detective Donald immediately goes there. A little too nice,
That's nice. Did anyone spend a little more time with their
Right, and that's the thing. It's like, again, dead ends are such a good tool for writing a procedural. Is giving us those false leads, like breadcrumbs, particularly because we know who did it. So the tension is gonna come from Elsbeth following the wrong breadcrumbs. So the more of them you can sort of put around without going, within the 44-minute zone, better off the story is going to be because it has somewhere to go. Because if it's only her learning what we know without any tension along the way, it's going to get frustrating, right? It's like those movies where the secret identity, isn't revealed forever. Like at some point it's like, okay, fine, we get it, he's Superman. Take off the glasses, fine, we get it, And so I think here it is striking that balance of how do you make it so like Elsbeth doesn't figure it out right away. So you need to send her down the wrong parts of the maze. And that's what they do here. They give us a lot of false directions.
I feel like, especially with this episode, what helped is that Elsbeth's already a caring person,
Yes.
and so Dee Dee is playing up the mourning wife,
Right,
the
right, right.
widow, and so like Elsbeth, I feel like she's kind of confused because like I feel like Elsbeth already knows, right?
Yeah.
But like she's like, oh, like you're sad. I don't know, but I feel like that's a good balance though of like they're playing. It's an emotional side that's being played with Elsbeth.
Well, and here's a question for you. How come Mrs. Claus wasn't electrocuted?
She must have switched.
gloves.
There it is.
You're right.
Sorry, I've watched enough crime shows to kind of guess.
Oh my
I'll give you the
God,
gift
it's
of
gloves.
pork. I forget that right, but you gave this to me. So yes, the gloves, right? Poker Face had a similar storyline involving a band where they electrocuted this drummer, and they all were wearing like boots with rubber soles so that they're grounded. And he was not. He was always barefoot.
There wasn't
And-
enough focus given to her taking off her Christmas outfit.
Yeah.
When Elsbeth took over, that's why she was like, "Hey, wait a
And-
moment."
And the thing is too, and
I'm gonna-
I apologize. I'm gonna jump to the end of the episode, the denouement.
Yeah.
This-
How does she figure out it's her other than the culture? That's what I'm curious.
Well, she'll explain it all. So I am obviously jumping past the middle of this one. It's a great episode.
Outfit. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Here's our Act 5, and they oftentimes will do the what Sherlock Holmes will say, the game is afoot, right? So it is definitely the denouement, the like, all right, I'm going to tell you
Eureka,
all,
I
and
got
everything.
it.
Eureka, I got it. Right,
Yeah.
right. And that's what they do in a lot of these episodes. It spells it all out. Murder, She Wrote, by the way, if you ever saw that old classic, that was one that always she would figure it out. Where I think the show goes a little, maybe one step better than Dear Jessica Fletcher is the idea here is like we actually have all these hints. And so if you're paying attention, you can sort of figure things out with her. And sometimes in Murder, She Wrote, she seemed to know things that none of us knew.
I feel like that's the. I'm sorry. You go ahead.
There was something to do about the ornaments that I noticed they were lingering on in the first act. I just don't know exactly what it is. I just know that she was lingering when she put the ornaments back in the box, and then the camera just lingered on
You'll
that.
say,
I just don't know
yes,
what it is.
Yep, very astute. You wouldn't have enough yet to know what that is, but that does come up here. So very, very astute. Yes.
I feel like the draw with Elsbeth is the different game that allows the audience to play along with, like Law and Order or whatever. It's like we're trying to find the clues within it and like solve the murder at the end. With this one, we're trying to find the clues to prove
Right,
why the murderer did it.
We're
to
looking
help
like right.
Elsbeth.
We're looking for the holes.
Yeah, the
We're
motive,
looking for
yeah.
we're looking for mistakes. We're looking for these. There, very few of them are really good at this.
Yeah.
You know, some of them are downright terrible because in some cases it's crimes of passion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so they didn't overthink it. They didn't figure out their escape. Yeah, they were for a bit. You know, and here too.
Slippers. They have little reindeers on them. She's so cool.
They bring in her son
Ah.
dressed as Santa Claus. So
How old is he?
he's an adult.
He's
He's an adult.
He's 28, I think. I don't remember if it's
Yeah.
somewhere.
He's grown, lives in DC. So, it feels like, and again, I obviously jumped over part of the middle here, but you could see the sort of pieces coming together. And so the biggest thing you could do for yourself if you're writing a spec of this is like, almost like take Elsbeth out of the picture and think about how they would get away with it. How they would cover up their tracks, how they would sort of, why they're doing this, etc. And then what would Elsbeth catch that maybe other people might miss? Also, you know, with her, what Kea would catch. And you can see here, personality-wise, you know, the more you watch this, the more you get to know sort of the finer points of these characters. But the idea of like almost like Elsbeth has experience as an attorney and incredibly perceptive. Like you can't really get something past her. Kea's young, smart, ambitious, and really teaches Elsbeth a lot. Like they're each other's mentors in a lot of ways. Meanwhile, Detective Donnelly is a little bit older than Elsbeth, or right around the same age, but has lived this life for decades. She's been a detective
It's
for
like
years.
Case smart, street smart, I guess experience. That's
Right.
Trinity.
Living a life, like a life lived in the police force. Captain Wagner, it's like a tale of two seasons with him. Season 1, he was definitely much more like, you know, he was more bah humbug. But you see here, season 2, like he genuinely likes her. They also had a nice little plot line, a subplot over season 1 to 2, where he felt betrayed by her. You were investigating me. How am I supposed to trust you? And over time, he realizes, well, that was her job. And the truth was, she did her job well and helped show that he was innocent because she did her job well. So they kind of get past that. And this season 2, I mean, the sort of ongoing serialized stuff is like her old cases coming back to haunt her from when she was an attorney, and then her running afoul of this evil judge who killed someone, and she's in on it, but she doesn't solve it in one episode, which is kind of fun. She is,
jury duty for that one, isn't it?
yeah, and she was able to get an innocent person off, but
She couldn't prove who did it.
exactly. And so that one's ongoing. So he'll come back for at least a few more episodes, I think. And it's and also he is playing dirty with her. He is digging up all this old dirt on her to use against her. So it's a good rival for her. It's going to go past one episode. Anything else as far as, again, sort of a taster, if you will, like a sampler, a set of the show? What else, or any questions about this? Please jump in.
Elsbeth has to be the one who actually figures it out first, but can the other characters do discoveries of their own? I guess because I mean,
yes, completely. And I think that's an interesting way to do it. Like maybe what if Kea actually figures it out before Elsbeth? I think you could do that.
What if it was like a case that was too close to Elsbeth?
Right. Like Elsbeth can't see what Kea can see, or Detective Donnelly, But I think that's actually kind of an interesting thing to explore. I mean, we talked about, you always got to be careful about reshuffling the deck too much. What if, I don't know, Lieutenant Conner, who you didn't meet yet, no relation. Lieutenant Conner is total stick in the mud. He's the one who's trying to go through the department. He's not a huge fan of Elsbeth. He's the exact opposite of her emotionally. They write him as if he might even be on the spectrum. They don't straight up say that, but he definitely shows elements of the autism spectrum. And he's kind of learning, he's fresh-faced, new, very rigid, which of course... Yeah, and Elsbeth is not rigid, as you've seen. Any other comments, questions? Please ask, guys. All right, so what I'm going to be looking for, obviously I'm seeing you guys in 36 hours. We have a Saturday morning class.
Bring coffee.
Coffee is welcome. You're welcome to bring porters again. But that one, what we'll do is we'll look at Severance as well as Invincible. Two incredibly different shows. The fun is between Severance, Invincible, and Elsbeth, that's a wide patch of land. Oh my gosh. You've got a bit of everything in those three. So it's a fun selection y'all have come up with. And so I will be assigning in the classroom for y'all to do breakdowns of this show, of Invincible, of Severance. I don't need it all by Sunday, but over this next upcoming week. So that by week's end of this week, our second class next week, being familiar enough with the shows to be able to really talk about them and help each other out, because first thing first, we're studying the shows, and then, of course, you come up with your own ideas for the shows.
Sorry, the new episode of Severance just came out.
So that's what we'll be doing tonight. Yes, Severance.
No.
Well, you're not allowed to. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize we had the... I didn't realize the fun police were here.
No, because then...
The lawyers
No. We agreed to watch it.
Well, guys, also, I very much appreciate you all being part of our filming here. So thank you guys for capturing this. As you can see, it's a pretty cool group. So you're very camera ready, all of you. And I warned you as promised, so you didn't show up, ragged and yeah. That was their one request. They didn't ask for anything besides just tell us in advance.
When it was, so at least we know
Right.
a little less time.
Right, because normally he wouldn't be bringing me free pork from. No, this is from Singapore. My son thanks you in advance. But thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate this, and I'll see you Saturday morning, nice and early. I know you're excited. What better way to wake up on a Saturday than with Severance?
Honestly?
You know what? I'm kind of excited about it.
Now, Severance is a good time, and what's interesting is since it's in the middle of season 2 now, trying to figure out, okay, where are you going to kind of plant your flag as far as where in the sort of timeline you want to put your story. So I think that will be part of the discussion over the next couple weeks as the show keeps changing under our feet. All right, thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Thank you for watching, whoever you are.
Whoever's watching.